Well, good evening, everybody. How is everybody doing tonight? Sorry I'm a little late, but welcome in, everybody. If you're brand new here, never seen this channel before, never seen me before, my name is Paul, and I would like to be your DM for a little while, and we're going to do some creating together. And so, if you enjoy DM tips, if you enjoy, um, reviews, if you enjoy just kind of, whatever kind of, this kind of frenetic kind of creation process, then this might be the channel for you, because I try to, you know, uh, create and, I like to say that I'm not like super formatted in the way that I do my live videos. I have an idea of kind of where we're going. But if you like kind of eclectic role playing type of things, this might be the channel for you. So don't forget to subscribe. Tonight we're going to be focused on. We're going to make some deities. I'm going to call this D-Day because we're going to make some deities, maybe some demigods. We're going to mess around. I'm going to show you my new Crit Happens number 8, and I'll do some splaining for you if I can about what this is. It's kind of like my little world called the Horror Hex Crawl, and it started with Hex Crawl number 4. And Hex Crawl number 4, if I have that nearby, I have it somewhere. Oh, here. Number 4, it started with just making, I just wanted a simple way for myself. Right? I wasn't trying to teach anybody. I wasn't trying to tell anybody how to do their hex crawling. I just said, I just want something fun. I just want something to mess around with without looking at a giant map and then having to just see this giant hex map and just it be daunting. And I'd be like, how am I going to fill this thing? What am I going to do with it? Where am I going to go? And so it was overwhelming for me to look at it. So I was like, well, can I shrink it down, make something that makes sense to me, some tables. And I started to kind of create this little world that was very much horror driven. And I didn't know why it was going to be horror driven, other than the fact that I think it was maybe an underserved genre as far as a hex crawl is concerned. And so I just started, putting together something. I said, well, what would be in these hex crawl? If this was a hex crawl of horror, what would be in there? What would be kind of the idea? And the idea was simply that I would have a 6-mile to 10-mile hex, and inside that hex would be a dominating force. There would be dominating forces that were in there. There would be, up to like 6 to, around probably, 5 to 6 different things that are going on inside that hex. Anything from, there could be dragons in there, there could be spirits in there could be undead, but there would be a dominating force, and there'd be dominating forces, and then there would be a dominating figure that kind of rules over. Like there's a major and a minor here. There's if I did this, this would be kind of your dominating figure. Like who rules this area? Who's the figure that kind of has the most power? And then in this case, it would be the spirit world. And in addition to that, there are camps, there are ruins, there's a cave. There's these camps now are survivors, which I didn't think of. This came later as we go along, because then later on in issue number 7, I made the survivors. And so these camps now, what I called then, are just survivor groups. They're surviving this horrible, horrible thing that has happened. And then I started to build out. That, and now there are factions. These different factions that kind of fill the void. There are everything from, like I said, the spirit world to dragons to the undead to survivor groups to demonic forces to cults, which I think is going to be my next zine. But tonight we're going to be talking about the Guardians of Creation. And if I could find my actual what I did with my actual what did I do with my actual thing? Did I cover it up? Oh, here it is. I forgot to pick it up. This is number 8, the Guardians of Creation. So now the world is kind of having, it's just being formulated, right? This is kind of this gives you the backstory as to how all this has happened. Because I have an issue and I don't have a printed copy. I gave that away. It talks about the witches of the blackened earth and how a hex they cast caused all these problems. And what this does, and we'll go through it a little bit, what this does is answer the question of why. So let me go ahead, and before we jump in here, first of all, I want to welcome in everybody. Thank you for showing up. Those of you that are here, feel free to make a comment and let me know you're here. Let me know you're part of the stream, and that way I can just say hey to you, and I'll know who's here. Otherwise, I'm going to move forward, and I will check back in with the chat as we go along, and I'll show you kind of what we got here. So let me go ahead, and before we get into that, I will show you. If you've not watched we just finished up our Shadow Dark campaign. Myself, Tim from Gothar's Manor, Joe the lawyer, Ken and Vance. For about 6 to 8 months, we were, in this this Shadow Dark campaign, and it just ended this past Monday. And I said, I'm going to do something fun here. I played a character called Terran Doomsinger. Probably, I'll say number 1 character I've probably ever played. I played a character when I was a kid. When I was a teenager, I played Kevin Landwaster. Not an original character. Actually, I stole that name from. What was it? Lord Fowl's Bane, and Donaldson, I think, is the author. And I stole that name. Hey, what's up there, Vance? And I stole that name, but for this, I said, well, I'm going to create a whole new name, and I'm going to go ahead and name Terran Doomsinger. And Tim wound up making it like a whole class in his little world, which was kind of fun. And I went ahead and made some things. I made some T-shirts actually, and I'll show you the whole thing. Let me just show you. I'll show you the ones I made, the ones that I think that are cool. This is Terran would often say that he was going to bring the doom. Right? He was kind of a mix of he was a barbarian Viking kind of character, right? Just kind of this wild individual that was just really had no, who was very much like in the vein of Drax almost from Guardians of the Galaxy, where he was very single-minded. He wasn't, he was just very single-minded in how he thought, right? Very narrow-minded maybe. Everything was whatever. So Bring the Doom, this is a T-shirt here, and I'm going to put a link in the chat here if you'd like to see all the design. I mean, there's only 4. There's 2 black shirts and 2 white shirts, and I'll drop those here if you were interested, and I'll show them here, and then you can tell me which one you like the best. Let's see, Bring the Doom T-shirts. Because I'm making a few of these, because hopefully I'm going to be at North Texas RPG Con. Hopefully I'll have some, not shirts with me, I'll be wearing some shirts. And then it'll be fun just to kind of wear those around. That'll be fun to do. Let's see here. There we go. All right, so that is in the chat. Bring the Doom T-shirt. So this is design number 1. Let me show you design number 2, and you tell me which ones you like. Number 2, Bring the Doom T-shirt number 2. I like that one as well. Let's go to number 3. A different picture here of yelling to the side here versus yelling at the front. And then we have the last one, which is this one here, Bring the Doom. I like this one as well. It just looks like, hey, we're about to get it on here. We're about to get it on. So I'm going to show you the full picture then. You tell me which of these, leave a comment, which of these designs do you like? Right, 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's from left to right there. The last one I showed you, Bring the Doom. Is number 1. The facing forward, Bring the Doom. The head shot with the circle is number 3. And number 4 is the sideways, Bring the Doom. So you tell me in the chat which one of those do you like. 1, 2, 3, or 4, because I think you're seeing it the same way I'm seeing it. Otherwise, it's turned around. So either way, just you can tell me which number or describe to me which which one you want. I'm pretty sure it's left or right though. So you tell me which of those Bring the Doom t-shirts you say, Paul, I would totally wear that somewhere, wherever that may be. But I'd wear that at a con or something like that. And there are stickers, by the way. If you go to the thing, there's a couple of stickers I did as well. They're die-cut stickers. And you can put some stickers on there. Vance likes number 3. Vance, is that the one with the circle? The circle around the circle headshot with the circle around it. Just confirm, just to make sure I know I'm looking at the right thing you're looking at, and I'm not counting. I'm not counting it differently. But tell me, is that the one you're looking at? All right. Let's see. Okay. And then if you want to just do it on your phone, right here, if you say, hey, I want to order a shirt, well, right here you can get the code and just snap the code there, and boom, doing it on your phone. You can do that. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the other stuff, which is what we're here for, which is to create a deity. So we're going to create a deity. I got my paper here, and we're going to find out. So, and I'll show you a little bit. I'll go through the book with you. Number 8, and by the way, these are for sale. They're only in PDF form, and you can purchase them. Let me go ahead and make sure I put we're new here, and you say, Paul, I would like some cool zines. Yes, please. Let me have some. Okay. All right. My things are moving so slow tonight. I don't know if I'm having internet issues or what's going on, but we're going to get into this here in just a second. Give me a second. Let's see here. All right, I'll put that up in a minute. I'll wait for that to kind of come up, and we'll see if we can get it going. Maybe I'll have it. Maybe I won't. Oh, I know where it is. Hold on here. Let's see here. I bet I can find it somewhere else. Let's see. There we go. And I can put the bundle right there. So let me do. I do have. Okay, good, Vance. I'm glad that I have the right one. All right. So this will take you to the site. This is my little store where you can get your zines at. And I'll put zine store. That way people know. The zine store. And there you are. So for those that would like to say, hey, Paul, I would like a zine, or I'd like to support the channel, those are there. And I appreciate Vance, because he's usually, if I announce it on our live stream, if I announce it during one of our games or something, usually Vance is the first one to buy it. So thank you, Vance. I appreciate you being an early adopter here. I hope that you have found value in it. And it's pretty cool. So, and of course, suggestions are always welcome. I'm tinkering tonight. I will tell you this. I've added a page. I'm going to tinker with it. And those of you that have purchased, you'll get another copy. I will send you another copy. But I think it only makes sense. So I don't just add things just to bloat it. I add it because I think it just needs to make sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and get it going. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, there we are. And Gardens of Creation, which is short for creation. I just was messing around saying, well, we'll just make it that, right? We'll just talk about that. And then the people who live there are creations or creations, right? So just kind of mess around. This is a system agnostic deal. So you can use, there's no, it doesn't tie to any game in particular. So feel free to use it in whatever game you're running. use the stuff in there, and go from there. So, little welcome to the horror kind of gives you a little intro there. I have 2 versions, and I need to put the other one up as well. I don't know if I put it in the store or not. I made a print version and a link version. The PDF version has your link, so you can go to what you need to go to. And then I have the print version where you don't have these lines under it. So I need to make sure that's there. So that is available. So I'll make sure. Then I give you a lore dump, and this is where I kind of let you know what is happening. How did we get from the hexing, which is what's happened here, the witches of the blackened earth and their hex. We call it the hexing because the hex is what did the thing, right? Caused all this chaos, unleashed demons, it unleashed spirit world, it unleashed various sorts of creatures, monsters. So there's all kinds of things, and I don't know how big this is. It could be a whole. For my world, I'm working on like a whole continent, a whole kind of a map and everything. I don't know how much the hexing is going to fill that up. We'll see. Could be one area. It could be in one area and is spreading. So maybe there's a ticking clock there that could happen with that. Or it's all over the place. So we don't really know. We'll work on that. We'll get there. And of course, your comments in the chat are welcome. So then we get into this. And like I said, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I will tell you this, that I think the lore can be used for anything. Once again, it's system agnostic. So you can say, oh, this is kind of a cool thing. The basis is this. In a nutshell, what this zine does, it connects witches of the blackened earth, what was happening in creation, and what was happening in the heavenlies. So what is happening here in the what is called the cradle of creation is something that was happening simultaneously in the heavens. So you have a thing that's happening, and they happen at the same time, and explains why. I won't go into all that because that would take all our time, and we don't need to do that. But I would encourage you to read it because I think the lore is pretty good. It's and I will say there's a deity, the Silent Weaver. All is known as the Silent Weaver now. It was just known as Weave. Weave is what helped participate in the creation of Kreesh, and so now it's just the Silent Weaver because Weave went rogue and got fed up with a few things. And there's about a dozen pages of lore that we put in there, that I put in there. This is a solo deal. It's just me farting around and making stuff. The other thing is these keystones, what I call the keystones of Kreesh. And the keystones is what initially helped create the world. Each of the gods, the 12 gods that are in here, the 12 deities that are in here, each kind of made or had a keystone, which is their part of the creation. What happened is after the hexing, or after the rebellion of the gods that happened, all the naughty gods were put into these keystones. They turned these things of creation, these artifacts of creation, into prisons, basically, and imprisoned these gods in there through much effort. And what the hexing did, when the witches of the blackened earth did the hex, they found one of the keystones, drained it of its power, destabilized all the other keystones because of that, which then released all these creatures and horrific things into the world. So that's kind of the thing in a nutshell. So the keystones are out there. The other 11, you could go and use them to recapture these beasts, these things that were, these gods. You could try to use them to recapture them. You could use them for anything. They're kind of just a cool little, the thing that's just hanging around. They're hidden in different places. They were hidden in different places, so nobody messed around, nobody'd find them. And they didn't want them in the heavenlies anymore, so they said, well, we're going to bury them deep in various parts of creation. So then we have some demigods. We got 12 of the what I would call creation gods who participated in the creation of Kresh. And then you have these demigods, which are the things that got released. These demigods weave, who kind of, like I said, kind of tied everything together, and then wound up kind of losing it a little bit. And then these demigods started kind of tempting them to join her, or it, I should say. It's not even defined as male or female, it's just an it, or they. And said, hey, well, join me. Well, and that's where these demigods. Now, these demigods that are now running the place are these creatures that are now, they have their own little strongholds. They have their own little followings. They have their own little religions. They have their own little things. I think they're going to be the cults, though, in the next issue. And what they have here is these are the ones that have the demigods of what I showed you earlier, with the different things that would be in a hex. So it could be the undead, it could be devils, it could be the dread, right? You have all these kind of choices here. These are what basically these all of these things have demigods, or at least most of them. The spirit world, the monsters, even the slashers, what I call the slashers, they're just crazy. The marauders, the undead, the dragons, the demons, and the dread, which are kind of Cthulhu-esque type of creatures. So that is what got released, and that is what is inhabiting these hexes that are causing all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So you have Morrow, the Deathless General, in charge of the undead, basically. You have Azrael, the Fallen. That's where you get your demons from. Cinder, the Whispering Madness, who is the god of madness, basically now. She was the god of reason, but now she's the god of insanity, basically. And basically, if you've ever seen the movie The Crazies, where just kind of random stuff, like there's just murdering and there's for no good reason. That that's what Cinder does now. Cinder kind of manipulates different different people to then cause this chaos, right? This kind of murdering, literally murder hobos. Says, there you go. They've heard the whispers and now they're going after people, and could happen to anybody. Then you have Wraith, the Shadow Guide, which is in charge of all the spirit worlds. You have the Gorgon, the Beast Lord, who's in charge of the monsters, basically. You have Nixos, the Harbinger of Despair, the Servant of Zin, and the leader of the Dread. That's basically your Cthulhu-esque type of demigod. And then I will flesh these out later on in the cult book, I believe, because they can be major religions, right? But I didn't want to put it in this because this is the core stuff. These are going to be more of the cultish type things. So, which creation, the creations would say, these are the cults. These are not the 12 that we consider what you would call the main, pantheon of our world here. Okay. Let's see. We can make this a little bigger. And yeah. So then how we got the hexing, I won't go into that. I've already kind of explained that. Then you got the keystones. And then you have the guardians, which is, you have Earth Mother Kresh. You have Sky Father Aether. You have the goddess of life Zoda, who brings life and vitality to the weary and hopeless. You have the god of battle, Kale, or Kellen, I think it is in the Irish, or in the Gaelic. Then you have, which is a fierce warrior god, but also protector of Kresh. The goddess of healing, which is Salis, offers solace and healing to the wounded and afflicted. The god of death, which is Zin, god of darkness and unknown, not necessarily evil, so very neutral in that sense, but encapsulate basically the inevitable end, which is why they're part of the dread. It's like, it's inevitable, right? It's kind of this Thanos mindset. Sorry, it's just that's how it's going to end. Okay, and then you have Moon Goddess Lunera, dreams and so forth. You have the God of Secrets, Corundum. You have the God of Storms. You have Vola, which is short for volatile. Once again, I didn't do a whole lot of, my brain just works like any other of your brains, right? We think, what is the shortest way I can get there? I don't have to be original. There's nothing original. There's just trying to be creative with what you have. So that's, if I can take the short part of a word and say, yeah, that sounds great. Let's go with that, right? And then you have the God of Nature, Vaso, guardian of the forest and wild places. He holds the balance of nature in his hands. All right, so then you have, like I said, whose side are you on? And I broke them down into 3 alignments. Lawful, the guardians of Kriesh, which includes Kriesh, Aether, Zoda, Salus, Hylos, or Helos, and Lunera. I'm missing a comma there. I need to fix that. And then you have the dispassionate, or the neutral, which includes Kale, Zen, Iso, Vaso, and Vola. They're like, hey, we're in, but, we're not going to, we're here for other reasons. We're not favoring. We're just kind of in the middle here. And then you have the rebel gods, which are the chaotic, which includes Corundum, the Silent Weaver, and the demigods of Kriesh. So all the demigods are going to be evil. That's what they do. They're chaotic. Once again, use them for your own system. That's what the point of that is. Then you have the keystones. We go into that. We go into, these are the 12 keystones. This is what they look like. This is what the, I made them emblematic. So they are the artifacts. So they have different forms that they have, what they were trapped in, right? You have an obsidian heart. You have the silver chain, the emerald eye, the iron crown, the golden chalice, which God created them. You have the whispering skull. You have the obsidian shard. All these can be found, right, by your players if you want them to go on a hunt for one of these artifacts and then try to capture the gods one by one, or capture the rebel gods one by one, or the demigods. And then you have the obsidian shard. You have the sunstone amulet, the moonstone mirror, serpent's coil, the storm's eye, and the world tree seed. And then I get into temples, right? What are these temples, right? There's all kinds of temples here that you can find within, and I try to give these forms. This is very much, I find that, when you play a cleric or a paladin, everybody's world is different. I find them to be underutilized in the sense of their stories or their I don't want to say backstory, because that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about kind of the depth of the character that, hey, you have temples. Well, what do these temples look like? What is all involved in that? And so, one thing that I learned from Tim as he DM'd our sessions, that things like the Temple of Sareth, there's rules. He's got rules to these things, right? These things are not just random stuff. This is like, hey, no. Every time this happens, this is going to be pretty consistent. And so I wanted to be consistent in the sense of saying, okay, well, if you're going to build out this world, once again, your world, do what you want. But from my mindset, I wanted to build something I wanted to have something that had a little bit of, had some hook to it, had some adventure hooks. It had, some depth behind it. If you were to play a character that happened to have one of these deities as their god, well, I wanted to flesh that out a little bit. Well, what does that mean? How do I act then? And it gives you a backstory in the sense of the tools are there that you can use to play against what is happening in the world. So if your DM says, hey, and the DM, by the way, is looking for hooks as well. The DM is saying, hey, what can I use here? What's part of your story? And they're looking for things to hook you into the world in which they're playing. So if you're god, your deity that you have, has a temple, well, maybe the DM then says, well, I'm going to drop that temple in there. Or you have to go by the temple for any number of reasons, to offer a sacrifice or something like that, which then the DM can use as a way to, right, offer blessings or weapons or tools or extra spells or whatever that is. And I found that to be somewhat underutilized. And I really liked what Tim did when, and I think this kind of just proves that where I was going when I was writing this, because I'd written all this before this happened, that what happened was when Terran Doomsinger was, he had gotten a spear from the Temple of Sereth. It was part of his equipment that they gave him. And at some point, the spearhead lit up. So there was a bonus, there was a benefit to serving Sereth, that this thing just happened. And I don't know if he had planned it or he thought, oh, this might need to happen. Maybe Sereth needs to participate, right? Sometimes the gods pull the clouds back a little bit and poke their head through. You just see their end of their nose, right? It's just a little bit, right? Through a messenger, something like that, or through some omen or portent or something like that. And I thought it was cool. It was like, oh my God. So Terran was like, oh, look at this. So, and what happened too was because Terran was a new convert to Sereth, and it played out in the game that way. Terran leaned into it and said, how am I going to close this portal? Which is what we had to do. We had to close this portal to hell, basically. And the only thing Terran knew how to do was to then pray, because all he knew before was doom. All I knew was doom. Doom could not close that. And, but now he has like this deity is like, hey, Sereth, I'm kind of new at this. Can you help me out? So, and wound up where I rolled, and it was by rolls. There was no hand waving here. I actually rolled a natural 20, and I walked in, had prayed a little prayer, rolled a natural 20, and the portal to hell went and closed. So, I that kind of stuff to me brings the world to life. It brings the story to life. It brings your character life. It really does a lot of things. And it wasn't super heavy-handed. It just sort of happened at the end there. I wasn't looking to make, I wasn't out, proselytizing or making, no, I was just playing my character. We're not getting weird. We're just going to play the character, right? So the temples here, we'll get back to this here. And by the way, feel free to leave comments on what you think about using deities. Do you lean into them? Are they active in your world? Because a lot of games, or settings, don't use them very much. They're just sort of add-ons. They're just sort of like, well, they're there, but they're only there so that the character can get some kind of benefit. And I have structured this in a way where it lends more to the story. Can the characters get benefit? Sure. That's up to the DM, whoever's using this and runs this, as you wish. But I think what this does, at least it gives the person who's running the character a few things to hang their hat on, right? To create kind of the character that they want to create based on some things here. So you have the temples, and the temples matter. I want, if you're going to put it in there, let's make them matter, right? So as part of that, you have the temples here, and I'm only going to do one or two of these, and then we're going to get to the actual creation part, because I don't want to keep everybody all night. I only like to stay on here for about an hour if I can. So we'll get through this. So example, the Temple of Kreash, which is bounty. It's about the bountifulness of the earth, or about of creation. So what is required as follows? So sincere respect for the earth and its cycles, and commitment to nurturing life and required. So, who can be a part of that? Well, druids can be a part of that. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Van says we have a conflict between sister gods in the background of our campaign. Very nice, right? Just like there's this conflict that the pantheon is split. Now how it got split, and that they're split, and now they're working against each other, right? And there's a story there, and you choose a side, and now you're doing it, right? But yeah, that's pretty cool. I like it. So this could be druids if in your game you're playing druids, any nature type of things, rangers, right? So what's an acceptable offering? Fruits, grains, nuts, cereal, or crafted items made of from natural materials are acceptable offerings. So if you wanted to make an offering real quick, you could make something, craft it up, burn it, put it on thing, put it inside the temple, whatever. What does her temple or church look like? Her temples are typically natural spaces such as groves, caves, or gardens. Of course, you can, say, well, to be the forest, but that's kind of Talos's area. But these are, any kind of natural element, right? Does Kriyesh offer any benefit to those who are warriors or priests? And I put warriors and priests there. And warriors can be fighters, paladins, all those priests, right, or clerics. Could you build that out? But I wanted to put two distinct things in there that was going to get those benefits. Of course, expand it as you wish. But priests gain abilities related to healing and earth magic. Warriors gain resilience and earth-based defensive abilities. So that leaves it very open. I tried to leave these open-ended. What does that mean? What does that mean? Warriors gain resilience. Well, that could be toughness. It could, whatever the stats are in your game, could be constitution. It could be, any of those things. And earth-based defensive abilities. So what does that mean? Well, could it be a leap, like you're using the ground to leap off of as a defensive ability to get out of the way of something using dexterity? Sure. Could it mean earth-based defensive abilities where you could move like one time during a battle or one time per day, you could move a giant rock in front of yourself or in front of somebody else, or something that you could move it? Maybe, right? Defensive abilities, whatever you think those. You could. I thought of this in my mind. I thought of you could pull the ground up around you and kind of create a shield once, per game, something like that, right? In my head, I was thinking, well, what do you do if arrows are being shot at you? Well, you could, summon the ground, if you will, and just go whoosh, right? Or if something's charging at you or something like that, well, you're using the ground to help facilitate that. Then you have Temple of Aether, Law and Order. So what is required? A dedication to order, knowledge, and upholding cosmic law is required. Study and contemplation are key. So could this be a paladin? Yes. Could it be a monk? Yes. Could it be any fighter? Sure. Absolutely. So I tried to use words in here. I tried to, in formulating this, to where, once again, it gives the character some mentality or some character. Give the character some character, really. What does it mean? How are you going to play this, right? So you can use any of those things there. You can be more contemplative, or you could be more about knowledge. You could be more about the cosmic laws, whatever you choose to do, right? This is, what is an acceptable offering? Astronomical observations, philosophical treatises, or perfectly crafted tools are accepted offerings. So Law and Order, things that are, that have distinctiveness to it, right? If you look at a constellation, right? That's, you could make a map of a constellation and provide that as an offering. You could, write a treatise on write something about, law, or about the law of nature, or the law of gravity, for that matter. And then perfectly crafted tools, right? So things that have straight edges, or tools that are finely balanced, right? Something like that. Which means those are also things, as a servant of Aether, maybe you might be able to receive, right? If you're a warrior or a priest, maybe. So what does his temple or church look like? Temples are often high towers, observatories, or structures built with precise geometric alignment. So that opens all kinds of things, right? What does that mean? What does that look like when you design that? Right? It's very straight lines, and you think about, architecture then, right? These temples that are built very, they're plumb. I mean, there's not there is no, they're perfect, basically. They're perfectly balanced in every way. They're, they have this kind of feng shui to it, where everything in it is balanced. Everything is in its right place. They're very, the people who take care of the temple are very sure that everything is in its place. So you could really, you can screw that place up really fast. Oh, things are out of order. What do they offer any benefit to those who are warriors or priests? Priests gain abilities related to knowledge, and warriors gain tactical insight and abilities related to dexterity in combat. So because there's law and order, because there's structure, because the tactical insight part is kind of where that comes from. That it's that kind of mindset that I'm going to plan. I'm going to already know ahead of time what my signature moves might be. So you might get some benefit, advantage or disadvantage maybe, right? Advantages. It's, you can do that particular thing, but with advantage. You'll get that, right? All right, so that is, I'll give you those two, and now we're going to go and skim through, and each one of those have their own temples. I try to go light on the artwork because of printing. I try to keep it pretty basic. I didn't want to do, maybe I might do a whole thing where I do cards, where you can print out cards of these various things where you could show them or put them in a, some sort of holder or something and put it out there if you wanted to show people. And I may go ahead and do that just for funsies, just to give you something, a little extra bonus. Then you have the demigod worship. Like I said, their demigods who were released from the Keystones have developed cult followings, and their temple descriptions will be included in a future issue. Now we're going to create our own. So let's look at just traditional god stuff, right? Some basic focal stuff. And I got my dice here, and I'm going to use a D20. I think they vary. Are they all D20s? I think they're all, no, some are 10. Yeah, some are 20, some are 10. So let's go ahead and see, what is this going to be the god of? What is the focus? And I have some other ones there. I'll show you here in a second. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this deity. All right. And this is where I made one little change. Vance, I know you have a copy. Welcome to share, because I know you have a copy already. You'll get another copy, but it just made sense to me because it once again does a little bit of world building. I could have just said, well, everybody's just human, but you'll see. All right, so what do we have here? We're going to roll up a deity. The deity is going to be the deity of fire. All right, perfect. So we have a fire deity, or fire god. And this is a more, here are some non-traditional deity foci to throw, if you want to use industry and innovation, commerce and trade, urban life and civilians, civilization, the performing, exploration and discovery, politics, and so I'll just roll this here. Okay, so you have a fire deity of whom? Of whom? Oh my gosh, I think, sorry guys, I apologize for those of you that got bumped out. It seems that my internet is acting up, and so I'm getting bumped. So this may be part 2 here. All right, so a god of whom? So we have a fire god of, well, that's a little bit. Let's go and try that again. Let's just throw it on the floor, Paul. Just throw it on the floor. Ah. All right, dwarves. That sounds good. Fire god of dwarves. We have a dwarven fire god. We don't have any names yet or anything like that, but let's go on. All right. And once again, like I said, I put these in here, may put the SRD on there, and then we'll go from there. But once again, it made sense to flesh out the world that if somebody's using this and they're using these types of creatures in there, then it makes sense. To become a follower. So what does that mean to become a follower of this fire god? We don't know what their name is yet, but they'll have one. So let's roll a D10. A 5. Okay, create a work of art, producing a unique and significant creation that reflects the deity's domain. So, if you have a fire god, a dwarven fire god, that would mean that you're probably, could be, it doesn't have to be, that you're a blacksmith and you must create something on the forge, right? In the forge, that's going to be, it could be anything. It could be an axe. It could be it doesn't have to be a weapon. It could just be a spike, right? Something like that. So you've got to create a work of art or of innovation. And then we move on. What kind of temple is this? Not your daddy's temple, of course. So if we roll this, we will get... I'm sorry, I got to roll a d10. 3. A temple is going to be a temple grown from living plants or coral, constantly evolving and changing. So I'm going to say that the fire god, dwarven fire god, that where you offer blacksmithing, is going to be some sort of rock structure, because rocks can shift, right? So I'm going to say that that the temple is made of rock, like some sort of molten rock that is hot and has flexibility to it, where it can change and shift. So we have kind of a molten rock, maybe located around a volcano. Okay. And let's see here. So we have that kind of temple. Then we have, 2, 3, 4. All right. And then we go to, okay. We have strange benefits of believing. What do you get for, what does your character get for believing? Let's see. Let's roll d10s. That would be helpful. You're going to get 2. Enhanced sensory perception. Heightened senses beyond normal limits, such as hearing whispers from miles away or tasting the emotions of others. Now, I don't know what a dwarf would do with that, but enhanced sensory perception. I'm going to say hearing. Enhanced hearing. But you can, or hearing or smell. You know where a fire is. Maybe that helps you. The sensory part says, I know, you can smell smoke from a mile away. You can feel heat, right? You can feel heat before anybody else feels it. Okay? Which I think would be good, because if a dwarf then puts his hand on a rock and there's heat on the other side of it, he can feel it. Maybe nobody else can, but he can, because he has that extra enhanced sensory perception. So he can smell smoke a long way, fire. He can feel heat before anybody else, and he can hear maybe the crackling of the fire or something like that, right? He can hear something in that realm. And let's see, practices and devotions. 3. Sleep oracles. Followers talk in their sleep with hopes of receiving an oracle. Okay. So practices. So I think what that would be involved with is that basically the dwarf would start a fire and he would sleep by the fire, and the oracles would come through the fire. The fire itself would spell it out, but and I say sleep, it could be a trance, right? You could be in a trance in front of the fire, and the message, whatever the deity is trying to communicate to you, is going to come through is going to be spelled out in the fire through images or whatever it is, and then your character can do that. All right, and then let's see. So what happens if this dwarf does something not good, right? What's their penance? What do they have to do to make it up to the fire god that they worship? Let's see, a 9. Sensory deprivation meditation. Followers must wear a blindfold or cover their ears. So the penance is, for the dwarven god, blindfolded or cover their ears so they can't hear, or maybe their sensory their sensory, we'll say this, their sensory perception, the things that I talked about earlier, um, is taken away for a time period, like one through it could be rounds, it could be days, it could be one day, sensory perception taken away for one day. It could also be penances. You have to throw, you know, you have to throw one of your items. And once again, these tables, all they are for is for the creative purpose, right? So if I want to say, look, I rolled that up, but if one thing can lead to another thing, you don't have to use the thing, but as is, but use that thing as a stepping stone. So maybe it's, I'm going to take, and you have to throw a weapon into a fire to where it melts. You have to have a hot enough fire. Go to the temple, and this molten rock temple probably has a forge in it. That if you can throw your weapon in there. They probably have it named. They named it something. The Forge of Shame, or the what would we call it? Something like that, to where if you got to throw a weapon in there and have a weapon destroyed, you have to, it's going to be, it's not going to be good. It's not a pleasant experience. Like the heat from this thing just blisters your face while you're throwing it in. Then we move on. So how does your deity communicate with you? Let's find out. Through the fire, right? Through the sleep oracles. That's one way. We can keep that and not do anything else. Or objects change form and function. Everyday objects spontaneously transform into symbols or tools related to the deity's domain. Fire, right? Or something bursts. That's kind of cool. Something bursts into flames. So if your deity was trying to communicate with you, you could be near a horse and the horse just bursts into flames. Who knows? Like he's trying to say to you something, some message like, don't ride that horse, or don't travel there. And the object that you're using to, whatever, just gets, implodes, or what do I want to say? Explodes, right? Either way. So something bursts into flame. That's the communication style of this dwarven fire god. It just blows things up to communicate with you somehow. And then you roll. You can say, well, what are the chances of that? Well, it's a 1 in 6 chance your deity may say something. 5. No. Well, he's not going to warn you then. Let's move on. By the book. So what is the book? What is the thing that this dwarven believer in this fire god, what do they use to hold the law, if you will? The rules of following, or the mandates, or the maxims, whatever it is, right? Let's find out. 7. Okay, symbiotic creatures. Animals or magical creatures that are bonded to followers, whispering religious guidance or acting as living reminders of their faith. So would that be a flame? A symbiotic creature? I would go back to the fire. I would just say that the fire, anytime you create a fire, that fire then becomes a portal, or could be a portal or could be a special flint and, a special kind of flint that you use, that when you create a fire with that flint, it actually, you're able to read your maxims, that your maxims come out of the flames somehow, right? So you have a special flint that you call it the spark. The dwarves call it maybe. The spark of wisdom, maybe. I like that. So the spark of wisdom is for when they need to meditate on their maxims, to remember why they're serving and so forth. They have to make the fire, and in the fire they see the stuff, right? Um, and then maybe there's some benefit of that, right? What's the benefit? If you do this, maybe you gain something. Maybe you gain an ability, you gain a spell, you gain something temporary. Tim in his games would give you a limited time blessing, right, for that adventure. So maybe you get something like that if you choose to, whatever. And then the role play part is you, the character, then have to say, well, what did you learn from the fire? What did the fire tell you? And then you make up your own maxim, and that becomes lore. Then, right, that becomes part of it. Um, then you have weird worship sites. I don't know if this is going to work, but you could on this particular thing, but you could roll it up just as a random thing. It's like, oh, you found this weird thing. It's in a city built on giant floating lily pads. That has nothing to do with this character. But if you were in a swamp, if you said, oh, you see a city built on a giant floating lily pads, the temple is integrated into a city constructed entirely on a massive sentient lily pads that float on a vast still lake or a swamp or wherever it may be, right? And maybe this giant floating lily is like a temple of frogs or something like that you discovered, right? Then you have it continued over here. Strange meeting time. So when do the dwarves meet? Let's find out. I'll roll a d12 for that. A 3. Only at sunset. Interesting. Okay. So sunset is when the dwarves who worship this fire god meet together at sunset. Could be. So if you're looking for like, well, when does service start? Well, it's almost sunset. You know at this time of day that these dwarves get together and have, service or time at their temple or whatever it is. And let's see. Then you have, and that ends that. So then you have your temple artifact fetch quests based on the type of god. Let's see. Now you can apply this to what we just created here. You could say that, okay, I'm going to roll my dice here. And it's going to be a 12. So Zin's spirit controlling mask, a mask capable of controlling the spirits of the dead and has been stolen from the mausoleum temple dedicated to Zin, now used to raise an undead army. Okay, well, I don't know if we could do that. Maybe there's some sort of for this you could do some sort of iron mask that that controls fire elementals. Maybe that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a mask of elementals, and that was stolen from, this fire god's temple, right? And that's it. I think I've stayed within the hour, but I apologize for the disconnect. By the way, I don't know what's going on with my internet. It happens, I guess. But yeah, if you're interested in this, let me go back to here. There we are. If you're interested in the hex crawl, I do have a bundle if you're interested, and you can get basically in the bundles. You're going to get not only you're going to get these 4, plus you're going to get the Guardians of Creation. Basically, in the bundle, what I'm going to do with bundles is if you buy the bundle, you're basically getting 5 zines, but only paying for 4, right? So you're getting 1 for free. That's kind of what I'm trying to keep the price point at, to make it of value to people. So once again, in the chat, once again, that chat went away. So now I have to put it back in the chat. Let's go back over here. Go back to this. And here we go. And let me go back and see if I can't get this. If you want the bundle, you can get all the ones in there. And I'll put it there. This is the store, the zine store. Type that in. And then we'll drop the link there. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Appreciate you stopping by. And those that came back, God bless you. Thanks for coming back and hanging out for a little while. I hope that the time was well spent. Okay. Well, the chat's there on my part. But thanks for coming in and hanging out for a little while. I hope that it was of value to you. I think I'm going to go ahead and keep the page that's the God of Whom. Right? You can roll it up, create your own stuff. I think we came up with pretty interesting deity. I don't know what to name this dwarven god of fire, but it is a dwarven god of fire. What if we just called him Spark? We call him Spark. We call him Sparky. We call him I think we take it from Transformers, right? We can call it the All Spark. He is the All Spark. He is the spark that lit the forge. Right? He is the spark that lit the forge. Where all the dwarves were made, according to the dwarves. They came up with their own thing. But anyway, yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out tonight. Appreciate you being a part. If you have questions or anything like that, leave some comments below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Otherwise, we will see you guys through the week. More videos coming out. More world building to do. And we will see you then. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.